jury is back in the courtroom. Call your next witness, please. All right, you may proceed. Ms. Brady, call your next witness, please.
Your Honor, the defense calls Scott Zolby.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Could I have you raise your right hand for me so that I can administer an oath? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please be seated. Could you please tell us your full name and spell your first, middle, and last names?
My name is Scott Michael Zoldy. That's Scott, S-C-O-T-T, Michael, M-I-C-H-A-E-L, Zoldy, Z-O-L-D-I.
Ms. Brady, you may proceed.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you please tell us how you're employed?
I'm Vice President of Analytics Science at a company called FICO. We develop fraud analytic models that basically detect credit card fraud.
Credit card fraud?
Correct.
And what state do you work in?
California.
Right. Have you had the opportunity to know a man by the name of Robert Holmes?
I have, yes.
Can you please let us know how you know him?
Bob and I both worked first at HNC Software, which was later acquired by FICO in I think it was the year 2000 or 2001, up through the year 2013.
Okay. If you wouldn't mind, would you pull that microphone can come right up to your mouth here.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. All right, so you worked with Mr. Holmes for approximately how many years?
About 12 years.
12 years, right. Did you ever have an opportunity to meet Mr. Holmes' family?
I did.
Can you tell us the circumstance where you met his family?
So I had my teams over to my house one or two times for like a team picnic where team members would come and they'd come to the house. I was also at their residence for a dinner with my family and their family.
In approximately what years would that have been?
The dinner was probably around 2004.
Right. And what about the picnic?
Picnics were probably around the same time periods, maybe one prior to 2004 and then one a year or two later.
Okay. Did you have an opportunity to meet James Holmes?
I have, yes.
And do you recognize him here in the courtroom?
I do.
Can you tell us your observations of James Holmes?
When I met with the family for dinner, for example, James got along very well with his mother and father. We had a great dinner together. He seemed very friendly and joked around with his dad in particular. My other observation, a little bit awkward potentially, like most boys of his age, and he was a teenager then. But other than that, appeared very normal to me.
Okay, nothing unusual between him and the other members of his family?
Not that I observed.
Okay. Now, in the time that you knew the Holmes family, did Bob Holmes ever express concern about his son?
Objection, Your Honor.
What's the objection?
Hearsay.
Can you approach?
Yes. Okay, the objection is sustained on hearsay grounds.
Mr. Zoldy, did you get the impression that Bob Holmes, in the early part of the year 2012, was he concerned about his son?
Objection, Your Honor. Calls for hearsay response.
I don't think it does, Your Honor.
If you can answer the question based on observations without relying on anything that Bob Holmes said to you, then you may answer the question. If you have to rely on something that Bob Holmes said to you, then you cannot answer the question because that would be hearsay.
In around the Year 2012, Bob needed to take time off from work. He was concerned. He needed to come to Denver, and he needed to visit his son because they had lost contact with Jimmy.
In the early part of 2012?
Correct.
And you gave him that time off in order to do that?
Yes, at least 1 or 2 times I did that.
Any time that you had contact with James Holmes, did you ever see him be mean or disrespectful to anyone?
I have not, no.
Would you consider him a quiet person?
Yes, quiet and, as I said before, a bit awkward in the interactions, but I found him to have a good sense of humor and interact with all the people.
Okay. Thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Is there any cross-examination, Ms. Tish McGuire?
Good afternoon, Mr. Zoldi.
It's actually morning.
Oh, good morning. I apologize. Do you recall if the defendant's father actually came to Denver to see the defendant?
I believe he did, right? He took the time off and went to Denver. That's what I was told.
That's what you're told, but you don't know that he actually came to Denver. Is that true? That's outside your knowledge.
I never saw a plane ticket. It was his personal trip.
And the last time that you were able to observe the defendant was probably approximately 9 years ago?
Roughly. Yeah, in his high school years.
And do you know when in 2012 the defendant's father took time off from work?
I don't know the exact time. I believe it was in the summer.
No further questions, thank you.
Is there any redirect?
No, sir. Thank you.
May this witness be released from your subpoena, Ms. Brady?
You may.
Any objection?
No, thank you.
All right, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
The record should reflect that the defense just finished presenting the testimony recorded in D-TR-374. Call your next witness, please.
Your Honor, we'd like to put the testimony of Barbara Savory Martin in D-TR-380.
You may proceed.
Can we call Barbara Martin?
Come around this way, please. Good morning.
Good morning.
Could I have you raise your right hand, please, so that I can administer an oath? Do you solemnly swear or affirm, under penalty of law, that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please be seated. Could you please tell us your full name and spell your first, middle, and last names?
Yes, my full name is Barbara Soba Martin, spelled Barrastopamartin.
Ms. Higgs, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Martin. Where do you live currently?
I live in San Diego on Spannon Avenue,
How long have you lived there?
29 years.
Good. What do you do for a living in San Diego?
I do payroll, accounting, and HR work for the YMCA.
How long have you done that?
I've done that most of my life, but I've been at this current position for 9 months.
Okay. Do you know, was there a time in San Diego that the Bob and Arlene Holmes family lived on your street?
Yes.
And do you remember when it was that they moved there?
My earliest recollection was sometime 2003-04 time frame, I'm guessing.
Okay. Are you not quite sure of the exact year?
Maybe they were there before I met them.
Okay. Who did you meet first in the family?
I met Arlene. We had both found the Penasquitos Lutheran Church, and they offered new member classes. So when we enrolled, and we're in the same first session. We found out that we lived on the same street.
Did you immediately take a liking to her?
I did.
Tell us about that.
Well, I found out that she was a nurse, and I wanted to be a nurse, and so I love nurses. And it just was an instant gratification to, chat with her and sit with her, and we became friendlier as we carpooled and made arrangements to meet and go to the church together. So I felt comfortable and liked her right away.
How long would you say it was after meeting Arlene that it was that you met the rest of her family?
I'd say within the year.
And what kinds of things did you do with the family?
Well, I always needed help at pet sitting at my house and yard work at my house. And they had young school-age children the same age as my daughter, Jim and Chris. And so if we needed to go away, I groomed the neighborhood children to watch my pets for me and help me do a little yard work, because it was supposed to be a low-maintenance yard that never really was. So.
When you say Jim and Chris, are you referring to Jim and Chris Holmes?
Yes, I am.
And do you recognize James Holmes sitting over here?
I do.
Tell me if you recall when you first met James Holmes.
I'm thinking I might have gone to their home first and met them at their home, and they had a swimming pool. I might have been in the swimming pool or something with them.
Had dinner maybe?
And had dinner, yes. I can't be sure about that, but I'm sure I went to their home.
Okay. Can you just describe for us a little bit what this neighborhood was like in that early 2000 period?
Well, a lot of the families were two parents working, upper middle class, highly educated people who wanted their children to grow up in the school district that was touted as, the best in San Diego County. Mm-hmm. So we all moved there with the anticipation that we would get them through school in a great place.
Did you think that the school system was a good school system there?
I personally do. Mm-hmm. And I put my daughter through all the way to the end until her interest lied in a position where her equestrian studies weren't approved PE, so I moved her to the district and we did independent study the last 2 years so she could count that as her PE.
How old was she in relationship to James Holmes?
I think she's 2 years behind him in school.
So was she with him at Westview High School? Or
they might have had one overlapping year if he was the first class to graduate out and gone through the whole way. She might have been the incoming ninth grader that next year, but I can't be sure of that. I didn't look it up.
In your experience, did you become very good friends with Arlene Holmes?
I did. I consider her extremely close personal friend.
Can you tell us can you describe for us what you think of her as a parent, as a family member?
Well, I have to tell you, I thought that they would have been, to me, wonderful parents. I couldn't imagine that either Bob or Arlene had ever raised their voices at their children. They're so mild-mannered and soft-spoken. So I figure they had brought their children up in a functional way, in a very loving and compassionate environment.
Is that what you saw when you saw the family together?
Yes, absolutely.
Did they all seem to get along when you saw them together?
Yes.
Did you see much interaction between James Holmes and his sister Chris?
I did.
And how did they were several years apart, 5 years apart, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
But for siblings, I don't know that they had exhibited in front of me any sibling rivalry or anything that is normally normal in a family. They were very cordial to each other.
Okay. How would you describe Arlene as a person?
Arlene is a wonderful, caring and compassionate human being. I have to tell you, when my husband left me in 2005, sorry, but I walked up the street and asked her if she had a few minutes to talk.
Hold on, there's an objection. The objection is sustained.
So you would consider her a good and supportive friend?
Yes. You know, I could trust her with the information that I wanted to talk to her about.
I want to talk to you now about a couple of the experiences that you had with James Holmes. And you talked about needing some kids in the neighborhood to come pet sit for you.
Yes.
Did he help you with that on occasion?
I do believe so. I think with supervision from Arlene, I think she might have brought them down. I had a German Shepherd dog at the time, and not a lot of people are interested in watching your German Shepherd for you, so it was very brave of them to come down and offer to help. So yes, twice a day she had to be fed and water and taken out for breaks, so they had to come quite a few trips and then put her in at night.
Did you trust
Yes.
James to do that for you?
Absolutely.
What about, you also said you put some of the kids in the neighborhood to work in your yard.
Yes.
Was James Holmes one of those kids?
Yes, he was.
Can you tell us about that?
Yes, I can. I know that he had an uncle that was an arborist, and I thought it would be great if he helped me do a little landscaping patch in the front of my yard where I had vision for some flowers and some trees. So we worked hard together. I think I taught him a few things about how to do the work that I was going to do. We put a border around one section and a drip line through, and the soil, I brought in the soil, and we prepped it and made it ready, and then hauled those palm trees in and positioned them, and then we planted the flowers at the bottom that I wanted. And
Do you recall about how old he was when he came and helped you with your yard?
I know that was 2004, so I think he was 17.
Okay.
And yes.
Do you have something else to add about that?
Well, I wanted to tell you that he was a good worker and took instructions from me, and I didn't want him to come home sunburned, so I said, please wear your sunscreen and bring your hat, and I've got gloves for you. And every day he came to work ready to work with what I asked him to do.
How would you describe his demeanor with you? Was he respectful?
Absolutely respectful.
Polite?
Polite. We got lunch and breaks and drinks to stay hydrated, and he was always very nice.
Would you say he was super talkative with you?
No, and I was not his friend personally. His mother and I were friends, so I didn't really expect him to be chatty with me. We had a job to do. We were workmates, so that's what we did.
Okay. When you, in all of your experience with James Holmes and with the Holmes family, did you ever see that he was causing any problems, getting in trouble?
No, he wasn't that kind of a student or a child.
Did you think that he was the kind of person that wanted attention?
No.
Do you think he was kind of the opposite?
I think he was perfectly happy doing whatever his pastimes were. I understood he liked the computer and video games and things he occupied himself with that normal teenagers his age did.
Was he, in your experience, anything other than a good kid, a good boy?
But I would have to say absolutely nothing but pretty much a model child. He didn't give them any trouble at all.
Are you still close with the Holmes family?
Yes,
Do you consider this family to be friends of yours?
absolutely.
Do you consider James to be a friend of yours?
Absolutely.
Is it important to you to support them as a family?
Yes.
And is part of the reason why you're here to support James Holmes?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions. The prosecution, I don't know.
Do you have any cross-examination, Mr. Edson?
I have no questions for this witness.
All right. May this witness be released from our subpoena?
Yes, you may, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No objection.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
The record should reflect that the defense just finished presenting the testimony that was recorded in D-TR-380. Call your next witness, please.
Your Honor, we have the testimony of Martin Barrett, D-TR-376.
You may proceed. Ms. Brady, you may call your next witness.
We call Martin Barrett.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Could I have you raise your right hand for me so that I can administer an oath? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please be seated. Could you please tell us your full name and spell your first, middle, and last names?
Martin Thomas Barrett, Martin, Thomasbarrett.
Ms. Brady, you may proceed.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing fine. A little
Good.
rushed. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Can you please tell us if you know the Bob and Arlene Holmes family?
Yes, I sure do.
And how do you know them?
We were neighbors with the Holmes family when we lived in the Oak Hills neighborhood in the Castroville, Monterey Bay area.
And is that in California?
Yes, in California.
And can you just tell us approximately where in the state of California you're talking about?
Well, Castroville is about 20 minutes north of Monterey, city of Monterey, and the neighborhood is about 3 miles east of Castroville.
So the neighborhood is called Oak Hills,
Yes, it is.
and the town was which?
Well, we were actually considered rural Salinas.
Salinas, California?
Yes.
Okay, and that's by Monterey?
Yes, it's by Monterey.
All right. Can you describe for us what that area is like, the Salinas area?
Well, our neighborhood was surrounded by strawberry fields, both on the south and north sides of it. And then the school that our kids attended together with Jimmy was about 3 miles away in a very small rural town.
Is it also near Castroville?
Yes, the school is actually in Castroville where all of our kids attended.
Okay, is that also somewhat rural?
Yes, very rural. It's considered the artichoke capital of the world.
All right. If I can approach, I'll show you D-TR-253.
You may.
Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
And Your Honor, I would move for the admission of D-TR-253.
Any objection, Mr. Edson?
No, Your Honor.
Without objection, D-TR-253 is admitted.
Sir, can you tell us what that is a picture of?
It's the welcome sign into the town of Castroville. And they had a very small motel, they had a few restaurants, a tiny grocery store, and then the elementary school where the kids from the town of Castroville and the surrounding rural area attended.
What was the name of the elementary school?
It was Castroville Elementary.
Right. And behind that welcome sign, can you also see sort of the rural area of Castroville?
Yes, it looks like some of the artichoke fields back behind there.
All right. Your Honor, I'll ask to publish that later to the jury.
Okay.
All right, sir. I think you said that you have 2 sons.
Yes, we have 2 sons, Ryan and Joseph.
And how old are they in relation to James Holmes?
Ryan is a year older and Joseph is a year younger.
All right. And give us a little bit of history how you met the Holmes family and what your impressions were of them.
Well, they lived 4 houses down from us on the street. Trefoil.
That's the name of the street?
That's the name of the street.
Okay.
We loved it that they had a young son and a young daughter because the son was right in the group of age with the group of boys that our sons were already playing with. It was really neat because there was 14 to 15 young boys in the ages between Joseph and Jim and Ryan that they all played together or they were able to get together, and so we were just excited, one more kid in the neighborhood that they could all get along with.
And how old would these boys have been when you first met the Holmes family?
My recollection, they were between 9 and 11 years of age.
Okay. All right, and explain what the neighborhood was like, what the neighbors were like, what the atmosphere was on Trefoil Street.
Well, it was a residential style neighborhood, but they were bigger lots because we were outside the city boundaries, so had a little bit more square footage to our lots. There was lots of greenbelt spaces. The kids would be able to go out into the greenbelts and wander around in the little creek that ran through it. There were trees that they would climb. There was a neighborhood swimming pool that was part of our homeowners association that all the kids and families could go up to swim in the summertime. But it was a real community neighborhood. We really were able to bond quite closely with all the neighbors that we had. And so we kind of lived our lives through our kids at that time, as most people do when their children are growing up. And it's nice that, it was really nice for us because in raising kids, you want to know who they're playing with and whether you want to steer them away from them or if you want to, foster that relationship to continue. And all the kids in that group, we felt very comfortable with our boys playing with them.
And one of those boys was James Holmes?
Yes, it was James, which we used to refer to as Jimmy.
Jimmy. And what were your observations, what were your impressions of who you knew as Jimmy Holmes back then?
Well, he was a gentleman, he was sweet, he never was involved in any altercations. The kids would have pickup football games or street hockey in front of our houses, and occasionally there'd be a sore feeling or two, and it might end up in a little tussle. But Jimmy was never involved in any of those. He was never like an instigator to try to push anyone forward to get involved in something negative like that. He would always stand back and just observe and, hope it didn't. I think he was hoping it didn't grow to any bigger than what it was.
Right. Did you ever see him be mean or disrespectful to anyone?
Never at all. Actually, my wife and I always used to compliment him after we'd have family gatherings, or sometimes he'd bring his little sister Chrissy over, and she would be shy. She was super shy around all the boys, and so she would scratch and paw at Jimmy to say, let's go home and get me out of here. These boys are looking at me funny. And he would just say, calm down, Chrissy, it's okay. He just had a nice, mellow mannerism to him.
Did you ever see him be mean to his sister Chrissy?
Not once. Not once.
How was he with the adults in the neighborhood?
I think he was just like most of the other boys. If the kids were infringing on someone's front lawn or something, a driveway, skating, and they didn't want them there, they all, he along with the others would, respect the wishes of the neighbors. And I never saw any confrontations with any neighbors whatsoever.
Right. In that group of how many boys did you say all played together?
It was about 14 to 15 between that age group.
And at that age group, did it appear to you that Jimmy, who was James Holmes, did it appear to you that James Holmes fit in with the group or was outside the group?
I think he fit very much into it. There was one boy, Chris, who lived a house the house next to Jimmy, or actually the house in the street across from Jimmy, Chris Chun, that he used to visit with, and that seemed to be more of his regular pal, I guess, because they were in the same grade. And you'd see those two, if they were by themselves, they were always playing basketball in the cul-de-sac by Jimmy's house, or they're dribbling down the street and wanting to go do a pickup, trying to organize a pickup game so that they could play.
Right.
So he was, not extremely outgoing, but he wasn't closed in or anything like that, or not an introvert at that time.
Did he seem happy to you?
Oh, extremely happy. I think all those boys were having a great childhood, and it seemed like our house kind of became. I think my wife can explain that further. Just like a gathering place for all the kids, because she didn't work after school, and some of the parents that worked, it seemed like the kids would just kind of congregate over at our house. They'd have snacks, they'd do their homework, and then they'd just organize their play day from there. Or if they went home, they'd go do their homework and then come over to our house, and that's where kind of a general gathering place was.
And never any trouble with James Holmes at your house?
No.
And were they the kind of kids that would do their homework and did well in school?
Yes, the majority of them were. I mean, there were a couple that school wasn't so exciting for them.
What about James Holmes?
Well, he never came down there to do his homework, but, my wife talking with Arlene, I think they always talked about how he was doing well in school as our kids were.
Okay. Did the boys ever do things in the neighborhood like, make things or organize activities for the other kids to come play at?
Yeah, well, they would gather either at our house or out in the street, or they go over to every Halloween. The Holmes would put together a Halloween party that they coordinate, and Jimmy and Chrissy would be the leaders on that and telling the kids what to do, and they had a real kick doing that stuff.
Did the kids, including James Holmes, participate in sports?
Oh yes, Jimmy was very active. Like I said, he loved basketball. He would put together those basketball games. My son Joe, we used to refer to as JoJo at the time. They were on a traveling track team for Monterey County. Actually, Arlene was the one that informed us that there was a track team that was starting up that met at the high school 3 or 4 days after school. And so we got our son into running with Jimmy. And so they used to go to a number of track meets in Northern California over a course from like April till August, late July or something. So they did that for about a year and a half together until the Holmes had to move. But Jimmy was a great runner. He didn't like the long distance stuff, but he liked the middle distance stuff, and the coaches were always encouraged and very proud of his stamina and the effort that he put into doing his best to win a race.
Did he seem to fit in with the track team at that time?
Yes, he did. There weren't too many members of it at that time because it was just starting up. It was actually the county assessor from the city, or from Salinas County, or Monterey County, that was based in Salinas, and then a friend of his that ran like a door shop that formed the team together. And so they had a group of kids that focused on sprints and a group of kids that focused on middle and long distance. And Jimmy and my son seemed to get along fine with all the kids because there were kids from throughout. The majority of them were from Salinas proper and not actually from the Castroville area. They were actually the only two from Castroville. But the team actually met at the high school in Castroville, North Monterey County High School.
And were you involved with track also as far as going to the meets and taking the kids?
Yes. I would sometimes, if the Holmes couldn't take them to a meet, then Jimmy would ride with us because the meets were sometimes either in San Jose or Sacramento or even Petaluma one time. We went as far as there for a meet. And so we had lots of hours together in the car. Jimmy wasn't always the most talkative. We always had to, I'm a very talkative person, so I probably hounded him a little more than he wanted to with, stirring up some questions and to get some conversation going.
Your Honor, if I can approach with D-TR-254.
Yes.
Do you recognize that picture?
Yes, I do. I think this was their very first track meet. That was at Hartnell College in Salinas.
Your Honor, I'm sorry, move for the admission of D-TR-254.
Is there any objection, Mr. Edson?
No objection.
Without objection, D-TR-254 is admitted.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir. What else?
And so in the left of the picture is my son Jojo, Coach Tim, who worked with the distance runners, and then Jimmy. And it looks like they had both won medals that day for their first track meet, so they were very impressed with them. They were, I think, a few of the only kids on the team at that time that actually earned a medal on that day.
Would you do me a favor? I put a pen up there. Would you mind just circling the face of Jimmy Holmes so that the jury will know which one was him?
Good.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Your Honor, I'll ask to publish that to the jury at a later time.
Okay.
Sir, as neighbors to the Holmes family, were you able to observe Bob and Arlene Holmes as they parented James Holmes and Chris Holmes?
Yes, well actually every day the majority of those kids were at our bus stop, which is about 3 houses down from us and across the street from the Holmes' house. And so Arlene would usually walk over there, and my wife would always walk over there and monitor the kids in the morning. And occasionally I had to do that if she was sick or had to go do something different. So we had lots of good conversations there at the bus stop. And then we would get together as neighbors, as a neighborhood, and have barbecues and Christmas parties and celebrate birthday celebrations.
And approximately how many years did you know the Holmes family? How many years did you live right there next to them?
It was, I'm thinking, a 3.5 to 4 year period.
All right. And in that time, how would you describe Bob and Arlene as parents?
I think they were wonderful parents. I think they were very concerned with the development of their children academically. I think they were concerned about who they played with. Just like all of the other parents in the neighborhood were. I think they were super parents.
Did there come a time when the Holmeses moved away from Trefoil Street?
Yes, they actually moved in May of 2000, I think it was. And then we actually moved ourselves from that neighborhood to Reno in August of that year.
Okay.
So we had a kind of a separation anxiety from the neighborhood as well as separation from the Holmes family. And so my wife was very good, was trying to keep track of how all the kids were doing, how all the parents were doing, and so they became quite good pen pals. And
So they stayed in touch even after the move?
yes, they sure did.
Right. Back then, when you lived on that street, did you consider the Holmes family, including James Holmes, your friends?
Oh, certainly.
And
Certainly did.
Do you still consider that family, including James Holmes, your friends?
Yes, we do. Very dear friends.
Do you support the family?
Yes, we do.
Do you support James Holmes,
Yes, we certainly do.
even now?
Yes.
If I can have just a moment now?
Yes?
That's all I have. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Edson, do you have any cross-examination for Mr. Barrett?
Very briefly, if I may, Judge.
Go ahead.
Mr. Barrett, isn't it true that you had not seen the Holmes family, particularly James Holmes, after they moved in 2000, May of 2000, is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you, Judge. No further.
Do you have any regret, Ms. Brady?
I do not.
May Mr. Barrett be released from his subpoena?
Absolutely.
Any objection?
No, thank you.
All right, sir, thank you.
You're welcome.
Call your next witness, please, Mr. Brady.
The record should reflect that the defense just finished playing the video and audio recorded testimony in D-TR-376. Ms. Brady, do you want to publish the two exhibits that were admitted through Mr. Barrett, D-TR-253 and 254?
Yes, sir.
You may proceed.
Can we publish 253, please? And can we publish 254, please? Thank you.
Call your next witness, please.
Your Honor, we will play the testimony of Catherine Barrett, and that'll be D-TR-377.
You may proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. We call Kathy Barrett.
Good morning. Could I have you raise your right hand for me so that I can administer an oath? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please be seated. Could you please tell us your full name and spell your first, middle, and last names?
Catherine Lynn Barrett, KATHERELYNNBARRETT.
Ms. Brady, you may proceed.
Thank you. Good morning. Can you please tell us if you know the Bob and Arlene Holmes family?
Yes, I do.
How do you know them?
They were neighbors of ours when we lived in Oak Hills,
Okay. Where is Oak Hills located?
California.
Near Salinas or
Yes,
Castroville?
Salinas and Castroville.
All right. And what kind of area is that?
It's mostly agricultural, small community.
What street did you live on?
We live on Trefoil
How did you meet the Holmes family?
through our kids.
And how many kids do you have?
I have two sons,
All right. And what are their first names?
Ryan and Joshua.
All right. How was it that you came to meet Mr. and Mrs. Holmes and their family?
I just think through the neighborhood, they moved in after we did, and the kids started playing, and so we met that way.
How old were your boys at the time you lived on the same street as the Holmes family?
Our oldest was probably 7 or 8, and our youngest was around 5 or 6.
So how old do you think James Holmes was at that time?
He was probably, I'm guessing, 7.
All right. So elementary school age? Okay. Can you tell us about the neighborhood? What do you remember about the neighborhood and the people who lived in that neighborhood?
That was a really wonderful neighborhood. The kids all, played together. It was just a neighborhood right off of a highway, so it's just the neighborhood. So we didn't really have to worry about a lot of things, you know, there was a lot of traffic and stuff. The kids went freely from house to house and played in the green belts behind the houses. It was a nice neighborhood.
How many kids were there how many played together?
There were about 15 boys all in that age range that played together.
And what sort of things would they do together?
They made forts and did Legos, played video games, played sports in the front yards, did bottle rockets. I mean, they all played together and they played pretty well together.
All right. Do you remember James Holmes playing with that group of boys?
Oh, yes.
And what did you observe about him? How did he get along with the kids? How did he interact with the other kids?
He did really well with the kids. He was shy around adults, but with the kids, he was just part of the group and played well. He was always polite. I remember him saying please and thank you, and I think he did really well.
Did he seem happy to you?
Yes.
Did you ever see him laugh or smile?
Yes.
Was that a seldom thing or something you would see a lot?
No, I think he did it a lot. I think the kids all played together, and I remember that the kids argued or whatever. To me, he was the least confrontational of the boys.
How would you say he handled confrontation with the other boys?
I would think that he would some of the boys would be arguing about what to play or how to do something. He would kind of just stand back. I think once in a while he would tell them what he thought, but he didn't get into the arguments.
Did you ever see him be mean to anyone?
No.
Did you ever see him act disrespectfully or rude to anyone? Governor, if I can approach with D-TR-255 through 259.
Yes.
Your Honor, I will have no objection to these exhibits.
All right.
May I move for their admission?
Okay, Ms. Brady is indicating that she's moving the admission of these exhibits without objection. They are admitted. That's D-TR-255 through 259 inclusive.
Ma'am, if you can tell us, the first picture, I think it's 255.
Yes.
Can you tell us what you see in that picture?
This is a picture of Jimmy and his sister Chrissy, and then two other their brothers that lived in the neighborhood. I'm not sure whose backyard this is, but Chrissy is hanging on to Jimmy, and he's kind of smiling. That's kind of how I remember Jimmy.
I put a pen right there next to you. If you wouldn't mind, will you just circle Jimmy's face so that the jury will know for sure which one was him? And what do you recall about how James Holmes interacted with his sister, Chris?
Well, my biggest memory of Jimmy and Chrissy, the neighborhood, several families went to a water park in San Jose, and we took our kids. And most of the boys wanted to go on a bigger water slide that Chrissy wasn't old enough to go on, and she was kind of crying. And I remember Jimmy saying, "It's okay, Chrissy, I'm going to stay here with you and play with you." And he had his arm around her, and I just remember that was really sweet. And he stayed back with her while the other boys went.
Was he always nice to his sister?
Yes.
Did you ever see him be mean to her?
Never.
The next picture, 256. Can you tell us what's in that one?
This is a picture of the kids waiting for the school bus in the morning. It looks like it might have been around Halloween because some of the kids are in costume.
All right, and if you recognize James Holmes in that picture, will you circle it? And tell us about the bus stop, how that worked.
There are several bus stops along the street. So these are the kids that were closest to this bus stop. Usually one of the parents would come and wait with the kids.
Do you recognize all the boys in that picture?
Yes.
And are those part of the 15 approximately that you said all play together?
Yeah, the two, or there's a little girl, the little girl at the end, she didn't really, she didn't play much with the kids, so.
But the boys all play
Boys
together?
are all, yes.
Okay. How about the next picture, 257?
This is a Christmas party a neighborhood Christmas party we had at our house. And I think the kids were just opening gifts. They drew names and doctors.
Do you see James Holmes in that picture?
Yes.
Could you circle him, please? And 258.
This is before trick-or-treating, Halloween.
And how many kids are in that photograph?
6.
Do you recognize all of them?
Yes.
Despite the costumes?
Yes.
And would you please circle James Holmes if he's in that picture? How about 259?
And this is just another picture of them.
And what are they doing?
Right before trick-or-treating.
All right. Do you see James Holmes in there?
Yes.
Will you again circle him? And was it common for all of those boys, even on holidays, to play together and get together?
Yes.
Were the parents the same way? Did the parents get together as much as the kids did?
Not as much, but we all, like trick-or-treating, one of us all went, sometimes the parent would stay home to hand out candy, but we all went as a group.
Your Honor, if I can approach with D-TR-260.
Yes.
Ma'am, do you recognize that?
Yes.
Can you tell us what that is?
It's a flyer for the haunted house the kids put on Halloween.
And where was that held at?
At the Holmes house in the garage.
Your Honor, would move for the admission of 260.
Any objection, Mr. Edson?
No objection.
Without objection, it is admitted.
How many years do you believe that you lived by the Holmes family?
I'm guessing 5 years.
All right. During that 5 years, did you have a chance to see what kind of parents Bob and Arlene Holmes were to their children?
Yes.
How would you describe them as parents?
They were wonderful parents. They were very involved, very loving, very supportive, wanted the best for their kids, had them in, music lessons and sports, and I thought they were great parents.
Okay. Anything unusual about the family, or did they seem like all the other families?
Like all the other families.
Did the Holmeses eventually move away from that street?
Yes, they moved in, I believe, May of 2000, and then we moved around July 2000.
All right. And after you guys both went your separate ways, did you stay in touch with Arlene Holmes?
We did, mostly through Christmas cards, but an occasional email.
All right. Your Honor, if I can approach with D-TR-261.
Yes.
you recognize what's in 261?
Yes.
And what is it?
It was a note from Arlene's Christmas card. Another sheet included with it.
Is there anything else with that?
Some emails that we had sent each other.
And are these examples of contact that you had with Arlene Holmes even after the family moved?
Yes.
And was it your impression that Arlene Holmes was always very loving, very concerned about James as her son?
Yes.
And is that exemplified sort of in the writings that she did too?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would move for the admission of 261.
Is there any objection, Mr. Edson?
We do object hearsay and relevance.
Would counsel please approach? The objection is sustained.
Ms. Barrett, when you lived in Oak Hills back then, did you consider the Holmes family to be your friends?
Yes.
Did you consider James Holmes to be a friend of yours?
Yes.
Do you still consider that family, including James Holmes, as friends?
Yes.
And are you here to support them and him?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Thank you, Ms. Brady. Mr. Edson, do you have any cross-examination for Ms. Barrett?
No, Judge, thank you.
May Mrs. Barrett be released from her subpoena?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is there any objection?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
The record should reflect that the defense just finished playing D-TR-377, which contained the previously recorded testimony of Mrs. Barrett. Ms. Brady, do you want to publish D-TR-255 through 260 inclusive?
Yes, please.
You may proceed.
If we can see 255. $256. $257. Your Honor, did the court, is there a 258 and 259?
I thought it
I
was...
show it went straight to 260, but maybe I missed two numbers.
No, that's what I showed too, 255 through 260 inclusive.
Okay, 258. Thank you, Judge.
You bet.
$259. And 260. Thank you.
Thank you. Call your next witness, please, Ms. Brady.
Your Honor, our last taped statement is the statement of Joe Barrett, and that'll be D-TR-378.
All right, thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you.
Call your next witness, please, Ms. Hayes.
Judge, we call Joe Barrett.
Good morning.
Morning.
Could I have you raise your right hand so that I can administer an oath? Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Would you please be seated? And could you please tell us your full name and please spell your first, middle, and last names?
Joseph Thomas Barrett, JOSEPHTHOMAS BARRETT.
Ms. Hayes, you may proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Barrett, where are you living currently?
Currently in Las Vegas, Nevada.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm an attorney, but I'm currently working as a judicial law clerk.
Okay. Did you recently pass the bar out there?
About a year ago.
Okay. When you were a young boy, and you know we've just heard from your parents, when you were a young boy, did you live in a neighborhood called Oak Hills?
I did.
And can you just describe for the jury where that is?
It's in Salinas, California, right next to Castroville and Monterey area.
How old were you when you lived there?
I think I moved there when I was 3, and then I left at the conclusion of 4th grade.
And how old were you in 4th grade?
I think around 10.
Okay. Do you recall what it was like as a young boy living in that neighborhood?
It was a great neighborhood to grow up. We had a lot of kids that were, around 3 years difference in age, and always out having fun, playing games in the neighborhood with everyone. It's a good place to grow up.
Do you remember one of the boys in that group being James Holmes?
I do.
And do you recognize him sitting over here with us at the council table?
I do.
A little older today, yeah.
Yes.
I would like for you, we've heard from your parents, but sometimes kids are a little different around their friends than their parents. So if you could just let us know what your perspective is, what your description of James was when you were friends with him as a boy.
He was a very nice kid, very fun to be around. He just was always there, having fun with everyone else, normal kid. Yeah, he's just a good friend.
How often do you think you would hang out with him in the neighborhood? Is this like a daily thing?
It was pretty daily, and then I was also on the track team with him, so we had track practice 3 times a week together, and then we would go on meets all across California together.
Okay. Can you describe him as a teammate?
Yes. He was a hard worker. He was a pretty good runner back then, and he was great to be around, always encouraging. So yeah, he was a good teammate.
Okay. When you guys would all hang out as a group in the neighborhood, was it all just a group of boys?
Mostly. Yeah.
Was there ever any trouble amongst the kids?
Yeah, they would, there's always the scuffles among boys, especially around that age.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us whether or not James was ever involved in any of those things?
No, he was never like the aggressor, never really got involved. He'd pretty much stay off to the side when those things happened.
Were there other sports and stuff that you kids would play in the neighborhood aside from being on the track team with him?
Yeah, we played football, street hockey, baseball, anything there was, we'd play.
Okay.
Yeah.
How would you describe him playing those games with other kids?
He was just a normal kid.
Was he like the one trying to steal the ball all the time and have all the attention?
No, I wouldn't say so.
Okay. What about, was he a poor loser?
No. He was pretty quiet about that and good about that.
Okay. And was that true of the whole group of kids for the most part?
No, there's definitely always the ones in the group who are upset when they lose. So we had those.
So he was different than that. Would you always say he was a good sport?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Did you have opportunity, do you recall ever hanging out at the Holmes home?
Yeah, so they would put on an annual Halloween party for all the neighborhood kids. So that's my main memory of going over there. And that was always really nice. They put a lot of work into it, and it's kind of like a haunted house sort of thing.
Okay. As a kid, did you have a good time over there?
I did. I had a great time.
Do you recall, and you may not, do you recall at all James Holmes' little sister?
I do, but I don't have like specific memories of her.
Okay. You were mostly hanging out with, and did you know him as James, or what did you call him?
I knew him as Jimmy.
Okay. So you were mostly hanging out with James Holmes as not his sister?
Correct.
Do you recall her ever trying to hang out with a group of boys?
Not specifically.
Okay. Your more strong memories are of James Holmes?
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just a moment. Mr. Barrett, I appreciate your time. Those are all the questions I have for you today.
Do the people have any cross-examination?
No questions, Your Honor.
May this witness be released from his subpoena?
Yes, sir, you may.
Any objection?
No objection.
All right, thank you.
The record should reflect that the defense just finished playing D-TR-378.
Your Honor, it's my request that we break for
Why
lunch.
don't you, counsel, approach, please?
Sure.
Thank you. Members of the jury, it's about 11:45. Let's go ahead and take our lunch break. Please make sure you follow all my admonishments during the break, and let's have you back in an hour. It seems like everybody's okay with taking 1 hour, so let's have you back at 12:45, please. Thank you. Please be seated, everyone. The record should reflect that the jury has exited the courtroom. In terms of deliberations during phase 2 or after phase 2 of the sentencing hearing, are the parties requesting an extended period of time between the jury arriving at a verdict and the announcement of the verdicts? And if so, would 1 hour suffice, or do the parties want longer than that? Mr. Orman?
Can we get back to you after the lunch break? I'd want to discuss that with Ms. Teach McGuire.
That's fine. And the defense?
1 hour is fine.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. Is there anything we need to talk about before the lunch break from the people,
Nothing, Your Honor, thank you.
from the defense?
Oh, thank you.
Okay, great. I'll see you after lunch. The court will be in recess. Thank you.